July 10th, 2016. A hot night in Taipei. Two men in medical masks and bucket hats walk into a bank. One stands guard at the door. The other approaches an ATM, but he doesn't insert a card or touch the screen. He just stands there. Suddenly the machine starts spitting out cash, banknote after banknote. All he has to do is collect it. When a stranger walks by, the two men get spooked and leave in a hurry. A moment later, that stranger walks into what looks like a miracle. Piles of cash scattered on the floor. He has no idea he's just stumbled upon the scene of a massive high-tech bank heist. This exact scenario was happening all across Taipei that night. While these two men hit one ATM, 20 others were doing the same thing at different branches. This wasn't some random glitch. It was one small piece of a much larger global operation. Over 2 years, a sophisticated cyber attack would hit more than 100 banks in over 30 countries, draining roughly $1 billion from the financial system. It was one of the largest bank heists in history, and it was all orchestrated remotely by hackers. The group behind it was known as Carbanek. They were led by an elusive mastermind, and for a long time, they seemed completely untouchable. But on that night in Taipei, they made a mistake. A small slip-up that would eventually bring their entire empire crashing down. As one investigator later put it, at that point we knew they had the administrator password. They were watching us while we were watching them. It's very hard to arrest a piece of code. To understand how they did it, and how they were caught, we have to rewind. Let's go back to April 8th, 2014. Ukraine. We meet Maxim, a competent, respected employee at a bank. And like a lot of us, he has a habit of putting off those pesky Windows updates. As he sips his coffee, maybe thinking about the receptionist he has a crush on, an email lands in his inbox. It's from a co-worker named Sergey. There's a Word document attached, with a very official-sounding title about federal law compliance. Seems important. Maxim opens it, skims it, and closes it. Nothing seems to happen. But that single innocent click changes everything. Fast forward a few months. Maxim is sitting in a tense meeting. ATMs all over the bank's network have started spitting out cash at random times. Anyone lucky enough to be standing there can just take it. The bank is pretty sure it's a cyber attack. They send out warnings to employees, be careful with emails, but the damage is already done. When investigators check the compromised ATMs, they find nothing. No malware, no logs, no trail. It's a ghost in the machine. Then, months later, a call comes in at 3 a.m. from a large Russian bank. Someone has seized control of their domain controller, the very heart of their entire Windows network. Whoever controls that controls everything. Even worse, the controller is quietly sending data to a server in China. As investigators dig through the system, they discover remote control software, and a chilling thought creeps in. What if the attacker is watching them right now? One of the investigators decides to test this theory. He opens a Word document and types a single word in Russian. Hello. Minutes tick by. Then the cursor on the screen moves by itself. Letters appear. The hacker replies, "You will not catch us." The investigator types back, "We will." Then silence. Eventually the malware is identified. It looks like a known Trojan, but its configuration file has a name they've never seen before, so they give it a new name, Carbanek. With that discovery, everything starts to click into place. The ATMs in Ukraine, the breach in Russia, the incredible patience of the attackers. They weren't rushing, they were watching, they were learning. Here's how they pulled it off. That first Word document Maxim opened exploited a Microsoft Word vulnerability, a vulnerability that had actually been patched 3 years earlier. Once inside Maxim's computer, the hackers intentionally slowed his system down. Frustrated, Maxim did what any of us would do. He called IT. While the technician was fixing the problem, he typed in his admin password. A keylogger hidden on the machine captured it instantly. And that one password worked everywhere, including the domain controller. Now the attackers had the keys to the entire kingdom, but they didn't steal a single dollar. Not yet. For months, they just watched. They learned the bank's workflows, studied its transaction systems, and mapped out exactly how money moved from one place to another. Only then, when they knew the bank's systems better than the bank itself, did they finally strike. Carbanek used 3 main methods to steal the money: The first was silent transfers. They would move money from the bank's internal accounts to their own, but they would alter the account balances beforehand so that the final totals looked correct. Since banks only reconciled these accounts every 10 hours or so, the theft went completely unnoticed. The second method was the cash-out ATMs, like we saw in Taipei. They would remotely command specific ATMs to dispense cash at prearranged times. Money mules, often recruited through organized crime networks, would be waiting to collect the bills and pass them up the chain. But their third method was the most elegant. They called it database manipulation. Money mules would open legitimate bank accounts with tiny balances, like $3.33. The hackers would then go directly into the bank's database and simply change that number. That $3 balance would suddenly become $1 million. The debit cards worked, the withdrawals looked legitimate, and the bank had no idea what was happening. As a side effect, some ordinary, unsuspecting customers suddenly woke up to find they were millionaires. By early 2015, Carbanak had robbed nearly 100 financial institutions in 30 countries. Russia, the US, China, all across Europe. The total amount stolen was estimated to be around $1 billion. They seemed unstoppable, until Taipei. In July 2016, the Taiwanese police responded with incredible speed. Over 500 officers scoured CCTV footage, meticulously tracing the suspects from the ATMs back to their hotels. They identified 22 money mules. 19 of them managed to escape the country. 3 didn't. Panic spread through the Carbanak network. Cash was abandoned in parks, stuffed into public lockers, and left in hotel rooms. One elderly man found a sports bag full of money and took it home, believing it was a gift from God. In the end, the police recovered about 90% of the money stolen in Taiwan. The 3 arrested mules were sentenced to 4 years in prison. They were just small fish, but on one of their phones, investigators found something crucial: photos of stacks of cash in different currencies, and emails from the mastermind himself. The trail led them to Alicante, Spain. On March 6, 2018, police closed in on a Ukrainian man named Denis. He lived a quiet life, with his wife and son rarely leaving the house. He spent his days coding and paid for almost everything in Bitcoin. A lot of Bitcoin. At the time, his crypto holdings were worth over $160 million. But some things, like cars and houses, still require real money. And that paper trail led investigators straight to his door. When police raided his home, his laptop was still on and unlocked. They seized luxury cars, expensive jewelry, and a fortune in cryptocurrency. But most of the stolen $1 billion was never recovered. Carbanak wasn't just one hacker. It was a team of 10 to 30 people sharing tools, code, and infrastructure. And even today, variations of their malware continue to pop up in attacks all over the world. Code doesn't age, code doesn't forget, and you can't put handcuffs on a piece of code. Maxim's bank lost millions of dollars, and it all could have been avoided. That vulnerability used in the Word document had been patched 3 years earlier. Maxim just never installed the update, so please update your systems. It might just save your company $1 billion. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.